if we're saying that on the one hand there's pent up demand, that's not going to be all applied in the same area, because as we all are aware, and as you've already illustrated a couple of times, people are leaving places like Sydney and Melbourne in droves. At the same time, property prices in Sydney and Melbourne are going through the roof, right? So there's a bit of a paradox there for sure. But people are moving, and they're moving for specific reasons. Now, I know you're a big proponent of your big idea of the exodus to affordable lifestyle. I would push this a little further and add another vector to that. And we often talk about the holy trinity being cash flow positive properties in high growth areas with value add potential. But I would say the holy trinity of location selection at the moment would come down to three factors: affordability, lifestyle, and jobs. And so I would suggest that is driving the demand centers at the moment, and that is going to be underpinning the areas that are going to succeed, not just on a sugar high basis, but also to have longevity over the next decade.
Well, it's a very good point, and I think the point needs to be made again and again and again to people that, yes, that there is this big trend. We call it the exodus to affordable lifestyle. People are moving to the smaller cities. They're moving to the peripheral of the big cities, and they're moving to country areas. But particularly if you're an investor, it's really important to choose your locations well, taking a long-term view, because I think there's too many people buying willy-nilly, thinking we can buy anywhere and get growth, and that may be true in the short term, but it won't be true in the long term. There's got to be intrinsic drivers of growth in evidence if you go to target a particular location, not just because it's maybe a sexy coastal town and the prices appear cheap relative to where you're currently sitting. It needs to have some substance. It can't be a one-horse economy with just tourism or just agriculture. It needs to have more substance.
Well, let me pose a challenge to that, right? Because I would argue that to some degree, even a small coastal town which purely only has one of the three core elements, maybe it's only got lifestyle, maybe the scale's got two: lifestyle and affordability. It's cheap to live there and it's right near the beach. I can think of plenty of places like that, particularly on Queensland's coasts, maybe places around the Whitsundays and stuff like that, where they're smaller regional areas, great places to live. Could you argue that even without specific infrastructure, jobs, things like that, that there could be sustainable market growth there because of the advancements and developments in technology and the shift to remote work and all of that kind of stuff? Do you think think that that's a misplaced understanding?
No, I think you could make that argument. And you see, one of the problems we have at the moment is that we are in unprecedented times, and some of the forces in play are quite new. There's never been a situation like this that we can go back to and compare as a precedent. And the factor you've just raised is one of those ones. It could well be, and only time will tell. What we know to be true up to this point is that locations that are very narrow and fragile economy, just tourism, for example, tend not to have sustainable long-term growth. And it's only when places like the Sunshine Coast broaden their economy, have a big infrastructure spend, that the growth starts to become more substantial and more sustainable. But if this trend continues, with people are just moving to places because of lifestyle, because of the ability to work remotely, then it may turn the dominant paradigm on its side a little bit, and we'll have to start rethinking some of these old beliefs. But I can't really answer, and I don't think anyone can until we've had a few more years of it. I think the trend's going to continue because media's tended to portray it as a response to COVID, but you and I know that's not true. It's been going on for longer, and COVID has just enhanced and exacerbated it. But it will continue because it's about technology and lifestyle. And we note that, for example, LinkedIn put out some material recently showing that more and more employers who use their platform to advertise jobs are actually proactively offering, as part of the package, the ability to work remotely. Because for some employers, and it doesn't work for everybody, but for some, it works at both ends because the employers can potentially save a lot of money on their office costs if they have fewer people actually in-house working. So, yeah, places that don't have a lot of substance to the economy may actually have just this ongoing demand from people making that shift
Yeah, it's an interesting one because actually we've seen that even within our team members with the development of better connectivity and Wi-Fi and satellite internet and all of this kind of stuff. One of our core team leaders within our business, he is actually traveling around the country in his caravan, working from his laptop as he literally travels around Australia. Currently, he's up around Broome and just enjoying it. And he's able to do that because of the transformation of the way that we work. But I'd also say there's another really interesting factor around all of this as well, around this kind of movement of people. Whereas a lot of people once, particularly with fly in, fly out jobs, which is probably going to lead into the next point about resources sector, with fly in, fly out jobs, often people were able to live where they wanted to live and would just fly to work and do their 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, or whatever the rolling roster may be. However, with lockdown changes, that's shifted as well. And I think that's an interesting and possibly unexplored paradigm around why some markets might be driving harder than others at the moment, particularly ones that have got at least a portion of their economy which is related to the resources sector. I mean, I'm thinking of places potentially like, the Hunter Valley, potentially places in Queensland and Western Australia where, it's no longer practical. And in fact, businesses won't even allow employees to live interstate because of the risk of them getting shut out and losing half their workforce.